Imagine for a second, like, that you are secretly a billionaire.
Hmm.
You just have more money than God. But to test the people around you, you intentionally make yourself completely invisible to high society.
Oh, wow. That's a wild premise.
Right. Like you wear faded clothes, you drive a rusted truck, you just totally fade into the background. And the question is, how long could you survive the ambient cruelty of the elite before you were finally forced to weaponize your wealth to just destroy them?
I mean, it's a psychological pressure cooker.
Right.
Because eventually someone is going to try to step on you, right?
Mhm.
Just assuming you're powerless.
Yeah, exactly.
And holding back in that moment, choosing not to instantly crush them, it requires a level of strategic discipline that, frankly, most people simply do not possess.
Which is exactly the tension we are decoding in today's deep dive. We have a really fantastic stack of sources on the table for you today. We've got book excerpts, audio analysis, transcripts, and even some visual concepts from the epilogue of Amanda Park's book, The Heiress of the Harvest.
Yeah, and you might have actually seen some of the viral excerpts from this floating around. I think they usually go under the title The Invisible Heiress and the Golden Boy.
Oh, yeah, those are everywhere right now. But if you just glance at the back cover, the book disguises itself incredibly well. It really reads like a snurpy Sunday afternoon campus drama.
Just rich kids, poor kids, university galas, all that standard stuff.
Yeah. But our mission today is to crack this story wide open, because beneath that dramatic veneer, this text is this ruthless clinical masterclass in strategic patience.
It really is.
It is literally a manual for building unshakable deep roots in a world that is just completely obsessed with superficial optics. Okay, let's unpack this. The vehicle Parks uses to deliver this masterclass relies entirely on two characters who exist completely outside the normal campus ecosystem.
Right, they are total anomalies. And, studying anomalies is always the best way to understand the flaws in any given system.
Exactly. So first you have Annalise Thorne. She's brilliant, quiet, and described in the text as having mousy caramel skin and this cloud of chestnut curls. But her reality is entirely hidden from everyone.
Right, because she is sitting on a massive billionaire inheritance.
Yeah, gained after her parents died in a tragic plane crash. But instead of renting out penthouses and, buying influence on campus, she lives on a dusty, fully operational farm with her grandfather, Silas.
She literally sits in the very back of her advanced calculus class just to avoid being noticed.
Right. And then opposite Annalise, you have Christian. He's the quintessential golden boy, but with a major catch.
He's tall, athletic, chocolate-skinned, and he is the student body president, which is huge.
But, and this is the key, in a university entirely run by legacy connections and inherited wealth, he has exactly zero pedigree.
Right, none at all. He fought his way out of absolute poverty.
He brings a perfect SAT score and a flawless GPA to the table. And he deeply values grueling physical hard work over any kind of inherited status.
Which perfectly sets up the central philosophical war of the material, because we are looking at this striking juxtaposition between the cutthroat, surface-obsessed university elite and the quiet, unyielding truth of a generational farm.
It's a total clash of fundamental mechanics.
Exactly. It's a world where value is simply bought versus a world where value must be cultivated over time.
But, before you can leverage that kind of authentic cultivation in a highly superficial world, you have to actually find someone who genuinely shares those values.
Which is really hard to do in that environment.
Right. And we see this play out in their early romance. It starts with this quiet encounter in the campus greenhouse over a wilting orchid, and then leads to a candlelit bistro date.
Which sounds very standard romance.
It does, but it very quickly escalates to what the text calls the harvest test.
Ah, yes. This is the moment the theoretical appreciation of hard work is just dragged kicking and screaming into physical reality.
Exactly. Annalise warns Christine that coming to the family farm for the weekend is, not a vacation. It means dirt and actual labor.
And Christine doesn't just show up and give her grandfather, Silas, some slick politician handshake,
No, not at all. When they arrive on Friday evening, he immediately sheds his jacket and starts fixing a leaning timber fence.
And then comes Saturday morning.
Oh man, Saturday morning at 6 a.m., Chrissy is out in the mud, wearing a faded flannel, hauling heavy cedar posts, and hammering wire alongside Silas for 4 straight hours.
Wow.
Yeah, and he doesn't complain once. He just lets his knuckles scrape and his boots cake with mud. Now, I've been looking at Annalise through the lens of market dynamics, and I'm curious what you think about this.
Mm.
I view Annalise as a deep value stock.
Oh, that's an interesting angle. Walk me through that.
Well, she is sitting there totally ignored by the broader market of the university because her packaging is plain, right?
Sure.
But I don't think she's just passively hiding out of trauma or shyness. She's actively weaponizing her obscurity. She's using her plain exterior and her late father's vintage leather satchel as a filter.
A filter to keep the superficial players away.
Exactly. It keeps those low attention span players out so that only someone willing to do the deep fundamental analysis like Christian can actually discover her true value.
What's fascinating here is the underlying biological and sociological concept of costly signaling. This is exactly what Annalise is filtering for.
Costly signaling.
Yeah, so in evolutionary biology, think of a peacock's tail. It's huge, it's heavy, it attracts predators, it is a costly signal. The peacock is essentially saying, I am so strong and genetically fit that I can survive despite this massive handicap.
Oh, that's wild. So how does that map onto a university campus?
Well, anyone on a college campus can claim they respect hard work. Words are cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
A designer watch can be bought with quiet credit card debt.
Right.
Those are not costly signals. They're easily faked. But sacrificing a Saturday morning to literally bleed over a wooden fence in the freezing mud, that is a signal that cannot be faked by a status seeker. The cost is just too high.
Oh, I see.
By enduring that, Christian proves to Annalise that he inherently values the painful mechanics of growth over the easy optics of popularity.
That makes perfect sense. But I mean, there is a massive inherent risk to this strategy because weaponizing obscurity works flawlessly right up until the exact moment someone trips over you.
It's inevitable. When you possess undeniable, grounded authenticity in a highly superficial environment, you become an existential threat to that environment the very moment you are discovered.
Which catapults us to the university gala. This is the moment the romance shifts into all-out war.
The gloves come off here.
Oh, completely.
Mm.
Annalise shows up transformed. She's wearing this flowing emerald silk gown, looking breathtaking. And the superficial system reacts immediately.
They can't handle it.
No. A legacy student named Vanessa decides to attack. She projects a leaked photo of Christian working in the farm mud to mock him in front of the entire elite.
Just trying to embarrass him for doing manual labor.
Exactly. But when that fails to rattle them, Vanessa drops what she assumes is a social nuclear bomb. She exposes Annalise's hidden billionaire wealth to the entire room, trying to paint her as a fraud who's just, like, cosplaying as a poor farm girl.
And this raises a really important question about how power built on surface appearances actually operates. It's entirely fiat. It relies completely on everyone in the room collectively agreeing to the rules of optics.
Which Annalise doesn't do.
Right. The mechanism of social shame requires the victim's consent. If the victim doesn't agree they should be embarrassed, the weapon just fails.
That is the exact phrase from the text, actually. Annalise refuses to give consent to the shame. But I want to ask you, why does someone else's authenticity threaten a status-obsessed hierarchy so much?
Because it exposes the hyperinflation of their social currency.
Right.
Think about it. If Annalise, who is a literal billionaire, chooses to work the dirt rather than buy a VIP table, she is loudly signaling that the VIP table is utterly worthless.
Wow, yeah.
Let's look at her response at the gala. She doesn't hide, she doesn't run away crying, she instantly recontextualizes the truth.
She owns it.
She tells the entire ballroom that she works the land because true value comes from what you build with your own hands, not what a trust fund prints on paper. She simply refuses to play by Vanessa's rules of embarrassment, and it completely defangs the attack.
But, you know, when social shaming fails to neutralize a threat, an entrenched system doesn't just give up. It escalates. It always moves to institutional sabotage.
Right, because if they can't beat you in the court of public opinion, they will use the bureaucracy to quietly execute you.
Which is so scary. And Vanessa initiates absolute academic warfare. She uses her position in the dean's office to steal the answer key for the Advanced Agricultural Economics final.
And this exam is worth, what, 50% of their grade?
Yes, 50%. Her plan is to plant it in Annalise's vintage leather satchel and tip off the professor mid-exam. It's a guaranteed expulsion. And she successfully plants it.
But Vanessa makes the classic mistake of underestimating the habitual discipline of a cultivator.
Right, because Annalise doesn't just casually throw her bag around. She has this strict routine of checking her late father's satchel before every single major event. She finds the key before the exam even starts.
Which is so satisfying to read.
It is. She calls Christiane, they access the security footage to prove Vanessa stole it, and then Annalise pulls a massive switch. She swaps the answer key in her bag with Vanessa's own formal signed complaint report.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So 30 minutes into the test, Vanessa stands up and points the finger. The professor searches Annalise's bag, and he pulls out Vanessa's signed complaint physically stapled to the stolen key. Vanessa faces immediate expulsion.
It is a stunning, flawless reversal.
It is, but okay, I have a much more practical question for you here. Think about this from a strategic perspective. Why endure the massive risk of a public spectacle during a final exam?
What do you mean?
Well, if Annalise found the key that morning and already had the security footage, why not just take it quietly to the dean beforehand and avoid the drama entirely? To me, it feels like a boxing match. You don't just block the punch, you have to let them swing so hard they fall out of the ring entirely.
Your boxing analogy is actually getting at the core of institutional psychology. Let's break down the mechanics of what would have happened if she went to the dean privately.
Okay, let's hear it.
If you report a threat privately to a university administration, it immediately becomes a liability issue for them. Bureaucracies do not seek justice. They seek the preservation of the status quo.
They just want zero friction.
Exactly. They want zero friction. They would have absorbed the punch, swept it under the rug, and Vanessa might have just spun a story about being framed and gotten a slap on the wrist.
So going public forces the institution's hand.
Precisely. By letting Vanessa confidently walk into her own trap in front of a professor and a lecture hall full of students, Annalise completely bypasses the bureaucracy. She removes all plausible deniability.
They can't hide it anymore.
Right, the institution can no longer cover it up, which permanently neutralizes the threat.
But there is a fatal flaw in bypassing the bureaucracy to destroy a minor threat like Vanessa. It creates a massive amount of noise. And that noise signals to the real apex predators in the room that you are a target worth hunting.
The battlefield shifts from the classroom to the boardroom.
Which brings us face to face with Julian.
And Julian is a whole different level of threat.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Julian's family owns a predatory chemical conglomerate, and he decides to go for the jugular at the senior capstone, which is this really high-stakes presentation in front of real-world investors.
High stakes, high pressure.
Yeah. And Julian hacks the projector feed during Annalise's pitch. But he doesn't attack her data or her business model. He projects these unauthorized, really intimate photos of a young, tear-stained Annalise crying at her parents' funeral.
That is just wow.
And he mocks her over the auditorium speakers. He's trying to force a complete emotional hijack.
It's an unimaginably cruel strategy, but it's highly calculated. He wants to trigger her trauma. He wants to reduce her to a weeping, irrational child in front of the exact financial institutions she needs to impress.
A total meltdown.
Exactly, because if she screams, she loses. If she cries, she loses.
But Annalise does neither. She freezes the image of her parents' funeral on the screen, stares Julian down, and simply plugs in a physical backup drive.
Oh.
And then she drops an absolute bomb. She reveals to the investors that she has successfully patented a soil enzyme that permanently repairs the soil biome.
Which is huge.
It's massive. This invention will completely destroy Julian's forced dependency business model. And, just to twist the knife, she reveals she quietly used her inheritance over the last 6 months to buy the controlling shares of his father's primary distribution company.
Total systemic leverage.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
If you want to understand why Annalise didn't stop Julian the second he hacked the screen, think of it as a controlled burn in forestry.
Okay, a controlled burn. Walk me through the mechanics of that in this room.
All right, so firefighters will intentionally start a small fire to consume all the dry brush in the path of a raging wildfire. Annalise let Julian start his fire. She let him burn through all the oxygen and all of his social capital with this deeply petty emotional attack.
He exhausted his resources.
Exactly. He created this massive dramatic vacuum where everyone was staring in horror. So when she unveiled the real fire, the corporate takeover and the patented enzyme, Julian had absolutely no social or professional fuel left to defend himself. He just looked like a bully who just lost his empire.
It is the ultimate lesson in resource allocation, and this is where we see the deep roots metaphor become literal and financial.
How so?
Well, chemical conglomerates like Julian's rely on killing the natural soil, so farmers are forced to buy synthetic fertilizers year after year, right? It's a surface-level parasitic business model. Annalise didn't attack his reputation, she attacked the literal root of his wealth.
She went straight for the foundation.
While Julian and the campus elites were spending their time and capital on hacking projectors and status signaling, Annalise was spending hers silently filing complex scientific patents and navigating corporate acquisitions.
But, having been humiliated in both the social and professional arenas, entrenched power will always default to its absolute final weapon, legal extortion. When they can't beat you on merit and they can't beat you in the market, they use the weight of the state.
The lawyers enter the chat.
Exactly. Julian and a high-priced corporate lawyer ambush Annalise in the middle of her senior ethics seminar. They drop a stack of papers claiming they found a clerical error in a digitized 1998 county deed.
A classic loophole attempt.
Yep. They claim this error means the northern half of Annalise's farm, which horrifically includes her parents' graves, was never legally transferred to her grandfather. They threatened to bulldoze the graves the very next morning to build a chemical storage facility unless she fully surrenders her billionaire inheritance to them.
It's pure, unadulterated extortion dressed up in legal jargon.
It is sickening. But Annalise doesn't blink. She reaches into her father's vintage satchel and pulls out the original land grant of 1865.
The original physical copy.
Yes, this physical document contains a cemetery protection clause. Because her parents are buried there, the entire property is legally designated as a historical sanctuary. It is completely immune to any commercial development.
Amazing.
Oh, and as the absolute cherry on top, she reveals she used her inheritance the day before to secretly buy the debt on that specific lawyer's firm, and she fires him right there on the spot.
Just a masterful, multi-layered counterstrike.
So what does this all mean? Why did Julian's highly paid, ruthless team of lawyers fail so spectacularly? Because they relied entirely on frictionless data.
Break down frictionless data for me in this context.
So we live in a world where data is scraped, assumed to be true, and rarely verified at the source because verification takes actual effort, right?
Mm.
The easy, digitized 1998 county records were frictionless. The lawyers did a quick digital search, found a typo, and weaponized it. But Annalise bypassed the frictionless boundary. She dug into the foundational truth, the physical 1865 deed in the archives.
And that foundational truth provides a jurisdictional checkmate. This is why you must understand the mechanisms of power.
Tell me more about that.
Federal and state heritage laws surrounding historical sanctuaries completely supersede the local zoning boards that Julian's family could easily bribe or manipulate. It didn't matter how much money Julian threw at local judges. Federal heritage law trumps it instantly.
It's a complete structural checkmate.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you also see the stark difference in the invisible deployment of capital. Julian used his money loudly to rent a lawyer for the afternoon to intimidate someone. Annalise used her money invisibly to own the lawyer's boss. Renting power versus owning power is the difference between a canopy and a root system.
Wow, that is a great way to put it. Which brings us to the resolution, the perpetual harvest.
Mm-hmm.
Because defending your roots is really only half the battle, right?
Yeah.
If you just defend, you're constantly under siege. To secure the future, you must pull out the corrupt roots and plant new, healthy seeds in the cleared soil.
It requires a systemic cleansing of the environment.
Graduation day arrives. Silas and a man named Marcus Thorne, who is the disgraced former CEO of Julian's father's company, who Annalise clearly flipped, they show up. They bring a massive independent audit proving Julian's father systematically laundered chemical profits through the university endowment.
So it all comes crashing down.
Yes, Julian is arrested on the spot, and the empire completely crumbles. Annalise and Christiane take the stage and announce the Harvest Foundation, which will provide full-ride scholarships for students who prioritize brilliance and hard work over legacy lineage.
They literally use the corrupt money the elites tried to steal from them to fund the next generation of authentic builders.
And we actually have a highly detailed visual source from the epilogue, set 1 year later. It's this beautiful image of the Thorne Research Center standing right on the farm. It's a perfect architectural blend of modern glass and weathered wood.
That sounds like a really striking visual.
It is. In the background, you can see scholarship students in lab coats actively testing soil samples. In the foreground, Annalise and Christiane are walking hand in hand. Meanwhile, the text explicitly notes that Julian is now a lowly junior clerk at a legal aid firm, and Vanessa is a failing influencer desperate to sell authenticity she doesn't actually possess.
The hierarchy has been entirely inverted. The meek literally inherited the earth, but they did it through highly aggressive corporate acquisitions.
Exactly. Notice how the story comes full circle. It finishes with Annalise and Christiane planting a new Honeycrisp sapling in the south pasture. The recurring theme you must take away from every single interaction here is patience. Annalise and Christiane understood that the best things in life are grown, not bought.
That is the final thematic synthesis we can draw from these sources. Power that is built merely on surface occurrences, on legacy names, optical illusions, and frictionless digital data is just a brittle branch. It snaps in the wind the exact moment a real storm hits.
That's beautifully put.
But power that is grown, tested, and rooted in years of quiet, invisible work is nearly impossible to shake.
We spent this entire deep dive talking about how deep roots protect you from surface-level attacks. We've seen exactly how Annalise used time, historical data, and absolute authenticity to completely dismantle people who are obsessed with optics. But I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder on your commute or your next walk. What happens when two people with equally deep roots go to war?
Oof. Now that is a terrifying prospect to analyze.
Right. Think about it. If Julian had spent his massive legacy inheritance building a foundational, innovative empire of his own, if he had filed his own patents and done the quiet work, instead of just buying superficial status and trying to bully his way to the top, how would Annalise have fought him?
It would have been a totally different game.
Is authenticity and patience always enough to win the day?
Hmm.
Or, when the roots are equally deep and the players are equally disciplined, does it eventually just come down to who has the most capital and the deepest trenches?
It forces you to wonder if integrity is genuinely a shield, or if, in the right hands, it's just a different type of weapon.
Exactly. So keep tending your roots, because you never quite know what's growing in the plot next door.